Hello everyone, welcome to this Ask Bess video session, video column that come to you every Saturday and Sunday at noon Eastern Time, Facebook Live, right here on the Bess McCarty page. How are you all? Sunday morning. What's it like where you are? If you're watching the replay, I'd love if you type that in, and if you let me know where you're from. It's kind of sunny fall day here in Kansas, middle of Kansas, very rural farm area where I grew up in. I am Bess McCarty, coach for network marketers, also for business and life. They call me the shrink of MLM. And this Ask Bess video column is where you can hop on, learn something, share a tip, put a question, or ask a question anonymously, or that you want me to keep anonymous on a private Facebook message. Anything about not just network marketing, but anything about business, life, careers, jobs, families, relationships, health, weight loss, spiritual fulfillment, all of that. And welcome, Aviva. How are you? Are you in Israel or are you in the States? Anyway, thank you for popping on. I appreciate seeing you here the times that you do. And I would still love to see you again. So today, the topic is your relationship with God. This has been coming up a lot for me lately, and I have some tips about that, some insights about that. Maybe you do too, and you could leave yours there. But just to preface a little bit, this Ask Bess video column is a place where you can be heard. My message is that you matter. I hear you. I'll respond to you. You're bigger than any problem that you face. There's a creative solution to every single problem, and it's usually not as far as you think. And I'll help. I teach a 4-step problem-solving method called Real Conversations that leads you from problem to emotion to need to solution. In other words, from problem to solution very, very fast in minutes. I call it Real Conversations. Trademarked it, observed how I worked with myself and with clients and students, and I'll share that in a few minutes. First, I want to address the question of the day, which is, how do I have a better relationship with God? And a lot of people wonder this because they may have been going through some tough times, and they wonder, well, where is God? That God would allow a newborn baby to die, that God would allow war, that God would allow these negative things. Where is God with all of this? Hello, Jill. Welcome. Glad to see ya. If y'all are spiritual and would like a better spiritual life, a more spiritual fulfillment, please type in yes, because I want to acknowledge you for that. And you're in a place today where you might hear something that can help you take a step forward spiritually. So the word God, I sometimes like to acknowledge that other people may have different words for it. They may call it source or energy or higher power or life or nature or the creator. So I'm going to use the word God today, even though I acknowledge that you may have a different word that you prefer to use. So you can just substitute that every time you hear me say the word God, but I'm going to use that. Actually, I use another word, but I'm going to use the word God because most people do. Most people relate to that. So I'll go for the most, but feel free to substitute your own. So a lot of people wonder, how could, if God is good and God is love, then how could God allow for, quote, negative things to happen, quote, negative things? My answer, my suggestions to that, hello Shamala, welcome. Glad to see you. My suggestion for this is that there is always to always look for the spiritual gift that is in that trauma, that devastation, that death, that unbelievable challenge that some people do go through. How could there be a spiritual benefit in there? Look at the spiritual qualities that we gain from going through a hard time. A lot of times I think that it might be the only way that life could bring us to those spiritual qualities is by going through that tough time. I know personally I am a tough nut to crack. I have a shell of my past experiences that I bring forward, of my ego, of my own mind getting in the way. So all these things can get in the way and become a shell around us to protect us from life. But it can also protect us from our own connection with our own relationship with God. It can get in the way of that too. So personally, I've had to be hit on the head or given some kind of tough experiences to get through my stubbornness, my ego, my know-it-all, attitude. And sometimes it's the only way that life could teach me these things. Had to hit me on the head, kind of break me down, make me surrender to it and say, okay, I'm not the one in control all the time. I have to let go of my way of doing things, my way of seeing things, and be coachable and teachable by life and by others. Hello, Mary. Welcome, my spiritual friend. Talking about spirituality. And I have a little story to share in a little bit about that. But sometimes life can happen to us, and we do want our way. We want our will. And I'm reminded of my grandnephew who just fell on the floor crying and screaming. He was 4, and he was just devastated, or 3 at the time, just devastated, and crying and screaming because he had a little cut on his toe that needed a different Band-Aid. His Band-Aid got dirty, and his mom was giving him the only available Band-Aid, which was a Little Mermaid. Well, he was screaming and crying because he wanted Spider-Man Band-Aid, not Little Mermaid Band-Aid. And his whole happiness, his whole life was crushed and depended on having that thing. And I thought, that is me sometimes. That is us sometimes, where we will throw a tantrum and we insist on something our way when maybe the mermaid Band-Aid was going to stick better, or was bigger or better in some way, but he wanted, the one that he wanted, and his life just wasn't going to be right till he got it. And that was, I think that I got to witness that so that I could see myself and see this process of tantruming. I was reading an article the other day, and it said that whining peaks about ages 2 to 4, but for some of us it continues. Right? And we complain and we rail against the way that life is sometimes. It's like my little grandnephew. Hey, Jim, welcome. How are you? Are you in Colorado now? Back in Colorado. So, talking about lessons that come up. Connection with God, whatever we call it, requires, thank you for the likes and loves, everybody. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Steve, so much. Thank you for being here. And if you're getting benefit, please, I'd love if you type in a takeaway. If you have a suggestion how to connect with God yourself, I'd love if you type that in and share that with everybody. If you know someone who could benefit this, I'd love if you tag them. If you know another Facebook group that could benefit watching live with us right at the same time. So glad to see everybody. Thank you so much. I love to help. And love your help, helping me help. Thank you very much. Love your suggestions as well. Like to learn from you as well. So, having a better relationship with God requires a few things. It requires a sweetness, a receptiveness, a teachability, a coachability. Often it requires us letting go of our old concept of God. I heard this one time, that as we grow in life, we have to give up our old concept of God to gain a newer and truer one all the time. Hello, Nancy. Welcome. Glad to see everybody here. To get a newer and truer relationship with God. And how about this? Try this exercise out. That every morning you write a letter to your very best friend, who is God. And you can lay out all of the things that are on your heart, all of the troubles that you're going through, all of the help that you would like to have. You can write that out. How would that feel if you were that open and that receptive and that trusting? Because it does require a trust, right? Hello, Karen. Welcome. Well, deep down, some of us may need to work on that trust of God, and I know that I certainly did. I remember a few years ago I thought, I don't trust God, or my own word for it, but I don't trust God. I have a fear about life, a fear about like tough things happening or negative things happening to me, or things that I might, what if I break a leg? What if I go broke? What if my son hurts himself? Something like that. And I realized, oh man, that's fear. I don't trust God. That I'll be protected from the things, or that the things that do come to me are for my spiritual benefit and best spiritual growth. And I don't trust that somehow. That whatever comes to me, that I'll be able to handle it, that I'm protected from anything more than that. And if it does come to me, that it's because I am ready for that challenge and to grow into that challenge. And I'm protected from the stuff that I'm not ready for yet. Do I have that trust? I thought, no, I don't trust God. So I wrote a letter with my non-dominant hand about my fears. And then I committed right then to trust God, because who else am I going to trust? Right? Everybody else is human. What else, who else am I going to trust? And I don't think God is a person. To me, it's a source of love. But I thought, if I don't trust this source of love or my Creator, then who will I trust? And I made a switch right then to trust that. Like a child that puts their hand trustingly in an adult, says, I know you're watching out for me. I know you're only going to bring to me what is for my good, what is for my best spiritual good. And so that was a big turning point for me. And Nancy says, I was devastated when I realized that I can't quite trust in God. It's taken me years to become. Yes, you can relate, Nancy, to what I'm saying. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for the likes and loves. This is a deep question, but you know what? It's underneath all of life, I think. Every happiness that we're looking for, whether, even the alcoholic trying to find escape into a bigger reality, I think is really looking for God. Every addict is really looking for God. Every addiction of every type is really looking for spiritual quality. Every time we're devastated or crushed after the death of a loved one, crushed after anything, any event in our life, financial, health, wealth, love, anything, I think the pain is really, okay, right now I'm wanting God. I'm wanting my very, very, very best friend. I'm wanting to feel that relationship with God. And it was after the death of my mother 8 years ago that I realized, I thought I had a great relationship with God. When she left, I was just cast into a deep, almost a depression, kind of a dark night of soul, where I said, wow, I guess I need to work on my relationship with God. I thought that it was good until I was faced with her death and the after feeling. And it took me a while to, okay, Bess, even though you're a minister and you're on your spiritual path, and even though you're a body-mind therapist for 30 years and all this, you got work to do on your relationship with God. And so I deepened it. And I began to realize and trust again, it was another turning point in trust, that every single thing that happens for me is because I'm ready to grow from it, and it's best for my spiritual growth, and that I'm protected from anything that is not so for me and each of us. I think we're all each loved that much. So that exercise that I have of writing a letter, even every morning if you want to your best friend, requires that we are coachable, teachable, humble enough to listen, that we listen. I don't really believe in telling God what to do. I believe in saying what I want, and say, if it's your will, then I would like this or that to happen. But I don't necessarily pray that a friend's daughter will be healed, because God knows what's right. Maybe God knows this is the time to take that daughter into His arms and take her home. And what the family will learn as a result of it is needed for their spiritual growth. So I don't tell God what to do. I say, I place this child or myself, the child that's my inner child, into your hands. And yes, I would like, if it is your will, I would like to know how to heal myself, if it is your will. So I always say, whatever I wish for, if it is your will or something greater. And something greater might mean, greater spiritually for me than to have that little thing that I want, than to have the Spider-Man Band-Aid. Maybe there's something better that God wants for me than that. Have you ever seen a mother trying to comfort a struggling, screaming baby? She's there. She's here. She's holding the baby. She's feeding, taking total care of the baby. The baby is resisting somehow. The baby is cranky or not feeling well, fighting against the love. And that's the way I think that God is with us sometimes, waiting for us to calm down and receive the love, rather than be distressed and carry on about how God isn't there for us, or how God has let us down. God's just waiting till we wear ourselves out enough to surrender to the love that is already there and already surrounding us and holding us and guiding us and protecting us. So when we are in distress, this is what I like to do, following the Real Conversations process. The Real Conversations process is I like to journal. I like to write down what my problem is, the emotion underneath it, the need underneath that, and then the solution to that. So if I'm distressed because I'm grieving over the loss of a relationship, let's say, and I'm distressed, I'm unhappy about that. The feeling could be grief. The need might be that I am desiring comfort, guidance, fun, companionship. So I write down the need, the things that, the third step, the things that I am wanting, that feel like I'm losing in that relationship. And then the next one is I ask God for that. I see how I can supply that for myself, or receive those very things from God, or from life around me, friends, family, other people around me. So those are the 4 steps of Real Conversation. Write down the problem, the feeling, the need, and then the solution to the need. Because every problem is really the sign of an unmet need. The last one here. Wiggle my finger. So when we discover the need, then we can meet that in a healthy way, rather than rush into another relationship or something like that. And Nancy says, I believe it's His will for us to be, I can't read this quite, us to be healed, and can do that for ourselves. Right. That sometimes maybe it's God's will for me to go to the next life, the afterlife, or the next life, or whatever that we believe in, rather than to be here and be healed. Maybe that was my ticket that God was sending for me to go on to the next life. So, yeah, in a way, it's always a healing, because it's a spiritual healing that way. I lost a friend recently, earlier this year, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that she's no longer here with us in the physical. She's somewhere. But it's kind of hard to swallow sometimes, until I remember that she is still here in spirit, just not in the body. And that must have been God's will, or it wouldn't have happened. I think God always has its way. So how I get out of pain myself is I write down what I'm feeling and what I'm needing. And some people don't know what they might be feeling and needing, so I actually put together a chart with that. It's a really cool 4-step chart of the Real Conversations, the problems that we have, the emotions that we have, in case we're not sure what we're feeling, which can clue us into what we're needing. And the third box is the needs that we have, the human needs that we have that are all valid, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. I studied all the top teachers of needs, including my own collection of needs, and I compiled everything, most complete collection I've ever seen about our needs and our feelings in these boxes, so that you can look at this box and say, okay, what am I feeling? I'm not sure. Let me see maybe one of these will jump out at me. And what am I needing? Let me read this list of needs that Bess wrote: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And maybe one of these will jump out at me, and then I'll have a clue now how to solve it, how to heal that, and fill that gap. So it's called graceful living when we can recognize the spiritual gift in every single thing that happens to us, happy or sad, easy or hard, beautiful or devastating. That is grace, I think. I've heard that called that, and I like that a lot. That is grace, when we can embrace the experience, look at ourselves and say, how does life want me to grow right now? There was a story of a little girl, a little 4-year-old girl, who had a very tough life. She had a lot of illness. She was sickly as a child. She didn't have any little friends because they all made fun of her, put her down. And on top of all that, her parents weren't getting along. So she sat in Sunday church one time with her mom, and she just said to God, why? Why is life so hard? Why is my life so hard for me? And this is the answer that little 4-year-old girl got. She heard, in life there are givers and takers. You are a giver. If you look for your life to bring you happiness, you will never find it. You will always be disappointed. Your happiness is going to come from giving to other people, giving of yourself to other people, and that is where you will find your happiness. Isn't that a lot for a little 4-year-old girl to receive? Later on, she did live by that. So a lot of times, the way we find God is becoming a servant of God, or a co-worker with God, or a giver. And perhaps we are not one of the takers. Perhaps we are a giver. And if we've been looking to see, well, what will life give us? What can God give me to make me happy? And why won't He? And why won't He give me what I want? And why won't He give me my Spider-Man Band-Aid? If He doesn't give it to me, then I'm going to say God doesn't exist, or God does not love, or God does not love me, or God is not a good God. He doesn't give me that Spider-Man Band-Aid. And so we can be like a little kid. Both those were about the same age. The one that was the Spider-Man Band-Aid, and the one that was talking to God in church. So, thank you. Anybody else have a thought, question, tip, insight? Even if you're watching the replay, let's keep this conversation going. I'll come back and respond to everything. So did you get the Real Conversations process? It's a 4-step process. It's worked for almost 30 years now in my work with myself and other people. I worked with clients and students and myself, and I noticed, hey, there seems to be a pattern here of how to get from problem to solution, and it seems to be a 4-step pattern. So I just observed it, wrote it down. I thought, this is teachable. This is doable. Everybody can walk themselves through these 4 steps, from problem to discovering the emotion underneath it, to the need underneath that, to meeting that need in a healthy way. Because the problem is just trying to meet a healthy need in an unhealthy way. And I've written down some suggestions for that. Actually, I put together a package of free tools that you can get. It's a $247 value info product, but I put it together for free for you. And that is the chart that I mentioned, a 40-minute audio how to use it, and email lessons sent to you so that every day you can journal yourself through those 4 steps, and that you can learn to do this self-help for yourself. For people who, and I'll put a link for that, it's actually Bess McCarty, Real Conversations class. And if you scroll down, you can find the tool for the free links, the free tools, the link for the free tools. Now, for people who want a little more help than that and want some hands-on live help but can't afford private coaching, I've created a class called the Real Conversations class. It's every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. And the link to that is also on the same link where you can join in the class. People are coming into it. It is live. It's real. Live group coaching. You can bring an issue and get coached. It's not recorded. It is confidential to that group. You can be anonymous by coming in with a different name. You can get coached right there live with an issue that you bring, because we're on for 90 minutes. Or you can just listen in, because every single person who gets coached, every other person gains something from it, because we're all human. We're similar in a lot of ways. So you're not alone. Whatever you're going through, everybody else can benefit from it in some way. And you don't have to do this alone. Having help, having a coach, having a mentor, having a counselor, which I am. I'm a body-mind therapist and a holistic health practitioner, counselor, coach for over 30 years now. Having someone to help is good. It shortcuts our journey, doesn't it? to receive help. Of course, we like to give help, and it's wonderful to be able to receive it too, like I have from so many people. I have a coach, I have a mentor, and I am a coach and a mentor, so I learn, I share. That's what I do. And you're invited to this class as well to hop on and join us every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, not recorded, but very alive, very helpful, I hope, for people. So I will post that one link where you can get both things, the free tools and the class, if you wish to join us. I'd love to have you. And let's see, any other comments here? Just feel free to continue leaving them. And I'm going to sign off now and let us get back to our Sunday and let you get the tools if you wish and enjoy them. Love to hear your feedback. And I'll see you every Saturday and Sunday for Ask Bess every weekend at noon Eastern Time. Remember, you can private message me a question if you wish to be anonymous, and I will address it here, respond to it here anyway. Okay? And maybe other people can chime in too. It can be like a little mastermind here. So we'll see you next Saturday at noon Eastern Time. Happy weekend to you. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.